Hi and welcome to another episode of Fergie 3D. I'm your host Fergie. I promised that we go through and take a look at making some corrections on that mega print that I did. As you remember, I had to print out the heads and shoulders because they didn't print out originally, and I super glued them on, but you can still see the seam and a little bit of the lip of the PLA where it has to be smoothed out. So today we're going to go over welding with PLA and Ultra PLA using a hot iron, like wood burning iron or soldering iron, and some extra PLA that you may have lying around. Now I have everything in place. I have some Ultra PLA, which should melt pretty similar to PLA. So let me go ahead and show you how we get this corrected. I took this PLA, and as you can see, put a really big hole right here with a pair of pliers just to give us something to fill. Now, when you're filling PLA, you don't want to take your hot iron and stick it right on the plastic and actually melt the plastic itself. If you do, you got to remember that you only have 3 or 4 layers on your sidewall. And you're going to end up putting in a hole right into the thing, and if you put a hole in it, it's almost impossible to fix without spending a couple hours and some more melting and some sandpaper. So when you're melting, make sure you're melting the piece of PLA that you have and not the model itself. Now, I don't know about you, but I always have extra pieces laying around whenever I'm switching out from one PLA to another. So I have a piece of Ultra here. And the first thing I do is cut it to length. Now I don't need it really big. I only need it 2 or 3 inches long. It makes it easier to hold, sort of like a welding rod. Now you need a flat area. It has to be well ventilated because there are fumes that are going to come off of all of this. You want to make sure that this is on a nice steady flat surface. So I'm going to take this and my PLA. Now to fill in a hole, I get the PLA a little bit soft first by touching the tip to the PLA like this. You see the smoke coming off. So once it starts to melt, I can push it in the hole and then take the soldering iron and stick it next to the PLA, and it will continue to melt in there as I go along. So let's go ahead and fill this in. Okay. Now this is moving around. If it moves around too much, it's just as easy to keep it down so it doesn't keep on moving around on me. Usually I have some kind of clamp out here, but for something this big, it's going to be too much. So I'm going to take that out and take some black tape, set it down like this, because I only have 2 hands. And now I can take this and take the PLA, and I can gently, now notice I'm not touching the model, I'm actually touching the PLA just above the model, making that soft, and then using forward pressure to press it down into the hole here until I end up with a little bit outside of the hole itself. So there we go. Let me go ahead and cut it off. Okay, so now, as you can see, I have the hole filled, and I have a little bit sticking up out of the hole itself. Now I'm going to use the side of the iron to smooth this out. Remember, I'm only going to touch the PLA that's sticking out. I'm going to try not to touch the model, and that means that you're going to use very soft, smooth strokes, very short. I notice it's starting to liquefy. Once it liquefies enough, I can start adding a little bit more pressure, a little bit more pressure, and you can see that it's now flattening out along the whole width of the model. When this dries, because it melted just like a 3D printer would, it will dry nice and hard. It'll be permanently attached to the model, so I don't have to worry about this peeling away or coming off. So right now I'm just using short strokes right along the contour of the model. And then later on, I can use sandpaper and finish this off. If you feel like it gets too hot, stop for a minute, wait for it to cool, and then go back in. Make sure you're only getting the top layer and nothing else. So you need to come back over this way. So we wait for that to dry a little bit, cool down. If you need it a little bit smoother, you can always take it and press it against something flat. I like to use this, and you can press that like that. And then we also give you a smooth surface. So let's set that aside. And let's go ahead and take something that we're going to join together. So I've got this Joelbot. If you guys haven't downloaded and printed a Joelbot yet, I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun and it's a really good model. It's a good model size up and down. You can find that on Thingiverse. Now Joel's leg is come off. There's the leg right here. We're going to go ahead and attach it where it goes. Now in this case, we're going to use something very similar. We're going to take our filament, get him down, and we're going to run filament inside of the joint here, and then when it's still liquid or soft, I'm going to stick his leg and hold it in place as it cools. And when I do that, it should form a permanent bond there, because super glue wouldn't work here. I don't have enough of a surface to put super glue on. So I'm going to start to cool the tip, or melt the tip, I mean. There it goes. And once I have it nice and soft, there we go. It doesn't take very much. We stick it inside. I'm going to finish melting this in. And put forward pressure. And I'm just touching the filament itself, not the model. And I'm going to overfill it so it goes into the other part of the leg as well. Cut that off. Then we take the leg and we press it in place. Doesn't take long to cool. If you put this in place and you still feel a little bit unsure that it's going to seal in place, you can always put super glue in this area here to go into the seam and glue it the rest of the way in place. But now we have a lot of surface area on the inside between the upper and lower part of the leg. Okay, it's still a little bit loose, so we'll give it a minute to dry. And let's take it off. And now, as you can see, the Joelbot has a nice leg. And that is really solid. You see that? I'm pushing on it, it's not moving. That's not like it was printed that way, because the filament hardens and adheres to the other layers on the inside, and now it's a solid piece. So we've looked how to fill a hole, and we've looked how to join pieces that come off where you don't have enough surface area for any kind of super glue to take effect. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the mega print. Alright, so if you remember our mega print here, see if I can get her in frame. There she is. So you can see the seams right along here are sticking out maybe 1/4 of an inch. Zoom in a little bit on that shoulder. There we go. This is a little bit too much to fill, all right, because it's sticking out over the model So what I'd like to do ideally is take this lip, use a little bit of heat, and just bend it down so it's flush with the model. Same thing here. And so I'm going to take the soldering iron. Now remember, I only have a couple layers to work with, so when I use the soldering iron, I want to get it soft, push it down in place, and then let it cool immediately. So here we go. So start to get it warm. It's just very short, soft strokes. And I can see the filament starting to move already. Usually I go side to side, but in this case I'm pulling downward to bend that lip down. And let's take a look at the results here. Okay, now that seam has been bent down, and now it's really kind of laying right on top of the original piece. So now when I sand that down, it's going to look like one piece, which is great. So we rotate it around. Same thing here, I have a lip right here. So I'm going to take my soldering iron and start maybe like a 1/4 inch up and then pull down towards me. With a wood burner, it doesn't take much to start to melt it. That's why small, even strokes are always the best. If you burn it too much or get it too hot, the PLA will discolor, brown color like you burned it. So you want to be careful as you're using this. Just use small strokes, very lightly across the top, and don't work it too much. Okay, now we're going to wait for that to dry, and that is also very smooth. And I can actually use a tool to press down on it if I want to, just to finish off the seam and make sure it's smooth. Once we finish this, we'll go ahead and get some filler, which we'll take a look at in another episode. You have some wood filler here that's going to fill all of these cracks and crevices, and put a light coat on there, and then when we sand it, it'll be really smooth. In this episode of Fergie 3D, we took a look at prints and how to repair them. Not only how to repair them, I printed out the Wolverine claws, and they were in 3 pieces, and I used the same method of melting the PLA and putting in the seams to connect those together for Halloween, and it worked out great. So remember that when we're melting the PLA, we can fill holes, we can join pieces that are hollow, and we can take seams and we can melt and mold them back into the form to get them ready to finish and paint and then give away to friends and family. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Fergie 3D, and you have a great day.